Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Utah Black Chamber and the Salt Lake Chamber for our webinar today featuring Black Utah, Stories from a Thriving Community, the new book that highlights the stories and experiences of the Black community living here in Utah. I'm James Jackson III, founder of the Utah Black Chamber. Utah is a place for business and for opportunity. It is a place where you can experience the outdoors in its wildest forms and feel welcome when you walk out your door. The state is growing and it is changing, a reflection of the communities that breathe life into it. While the Black community in Utah is small, it is stronger than ever and growing every year. There's still so much more work that needs to be done, but there is a place for everyone in this community. Utah is a collaborative, creative, and thriving place made up of people who are ready and able to change the world. And we have a few of them here today. We're thrilled to have you join us to hear from a handful of the book's contributors, people that I interviewed, on why Utah has a community for them and how they are thriving in this increasingly dynamic corner of the Mountain West. Today, we are joined by Michelle Degeorge, banker of Wells Fargo and founder of Versatile Image, Ms. Emma E. Houston, Special Assistant to the President for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at the University of Utah, and Laura Steyerman, Regional Vice President of Utah for WCF Insurance. And then we have my man as moderating, Mr. Sean Newell, Diversity Council Co-Chair of the Salt Lake Chamber. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit a question using the Q&A function, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the Salt Lake Chamber's website. With that, let's go ahead and hear from our guest. Mr. Newell, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, James. First, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves. Let's start with Laura.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Laura Steyerman. As James mentioned, I'm the Regional Vice President for WCF Insurance. I oversee Utah and Nevada. I have just celebrated my 26th year with WCF Insurance, so thank you. Yeah, I can't believe it. I just look back and I think, where did the time go? So I'm excited to share some of my perspective and history and hear a little bit from the other presenters today. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Laura. Glad to have you here this morning. Michelle, please introduce yourself.
Hi, you guys. My name is Michaela Michelle. I'm originally from South Florida, and I am of Haitian descent. My parents migrated over from Haiti in 1979, and I am a banker and also a business specialist at Wells Fargo. And as the founder of Versatile Image, we support startups and creatives of minority communities with branding and marketing, and I thoroughly enjoy what I do both during the day and at any other time during of my day is Versatile Image. So I'm happy to be able to be a part of the community here in Utah as it is thriving, and there is an increase of opportunities for entrepreneurship and professional careers as well. So thank you guys for having me today.
Michelle, thank you for being here this morning. And next we have Ms. Emma Houston. Please introduce yourself, Emma.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. And good morning to our panelists and our moderator and to Salt Lake Chamber for hosting this today. I am Emma Houston. I am one of the special assistants to the Vice President of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion here at the University of Utah. My responsibility is program development for staff, but also community outreach, wanting to ensure that individuals who work at the University of Utah, who attend the University of Utah, feel that community of inclusion and equity and belonging and success, and what that looks like and how it ripples out into the community as a whole. Been in Utah since 1986, so I call Utah home now. Originally from Texas by way of Florida and now in Utah. But knowing that the opportunities are so prevalent here in the state of Utah, I am excited that James has the vision to create this document of Black Utah stories from a thriving community to showcase the wonderful individuals here who have now called this home and are making sure that Utah continues to thrive as well as be welcoming to anyone who enters into this space. So again, it is definitely my pleasure to share this time with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emma. Good to see you as always. I took the time to read this book as well, and I'm so excited about this conversation with everyone today and getting a little deeper dive into your experiences here in the state. James provided a short glimpse of what the book entails, but would each of you tell us a little bit about the story you shared for the book and why you felt it was important for everyone to know your story and your experience? And let's start with Michaela, as we do that.
I was number one, I was honored. I still find myself kind of like a newbie in the game coming to Utah. I've only been here for 2.5 years. But I was very intentional with wanting to be a part of the community and being able to learn from those who have paved the path in the Black community. And so it was really important to me to get to know the former or existing community leaders. And so I'm number one, just honored that James had asked me to be able to be a part of this book for the impact that I've been able to do with my team within the last 2 years. I think that it was really important for me to tell my story because I guess I kind of represent the emerging leaders, those who are very interested in kind of introducing new ways of seeing and thinking and doing things as we have adapted to social media and the internet and just ways of diversifying how we distribute information and inspiring change within corporate settings or even within the community. So I thought it was really important to just share my voice because I felt like I had a story that could inspire others, and to see that Utah is a place where no matter how long you've been here, or how, if you're thinking about coming here, that there was space for everyone. And so I just really wanted to show that there was a lot of opportunity here, and that there was a community that would receive you well, and that would encourage you to jump in the game, no matter how inexperienced you may feel like you are. So that's why I wanted to be a part of the book.
Well, thank you, Michelle. That was really important, knowing that there are young people like yourself that are coming up. James and I have a lot of conversations about passing the torch. You know, I'm an old person, so I look forward to passing the torch on to the young folks like yourself. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's hear from Emma a little bit about your story and your experiences in being a part of this book.
Well, listen, this is it, is that I have known James Jackson for a little while. We travel in the same circles, and what I have seen this young man do is be inclusive, inviting people to share their experiences from all walks of life. So when he extended the invitation for me to participate, of course I said yes, let's talk about Utah and what Utah has to offer, and get rid of that perception that it is not a welcoming and inclusive community. Listen, you can go anywhere. You can go to Houston, you can go to Atlanta, you will always find something that is not going to be positive in a community. But what I have learned about living in this community is that we make it what we want to make it. We engage in the community, and we also uplift each other in the community. So to be part of this conversation pretty much gave me the opportunity to say that you can create your piece of the pie in Utah, that you can make your mark in the state of Utah, in the city that you live in. But we have to be intentional about doing this. We have to be intentional about supporting one another. We have to be intentional about joining organizations and groups that have the same frame mind of wanting to lift each other up. And so my involvement, of course, began in the church, Calvary Baptist Church, with Reverend Francis A. Davis. He is pastor emeritus now. Pastor Oscar T. Moses is our current pastor, but getting involved in the church and having young children. When we came to Utah, it was important to get them involved in the community as well, to have them surrounded by individuals who look like them, who celebrated them, and was able to share our values as a family. So making that connection with the church was extremely extremely important. But then our civic organizations and our fraternal and sorority organizations as well was also extremely important for me to get involved in. Getting involved in our children's school was extremely important, letting the principals and the teachers, those educators know that we are serious about our children's education and that we are going to be active participatory parents in their education. So the story that I wanted to tell is that you make Utah what you want Utah to be for you. You engage and you celebrate others and you cheer others on, because there's enough to go around that when everyone celebrates each other, we are celebrating the community. And building the community is extremely important. Letting individuals know who you are and what you bring to a space, placing yourself in spaces where others know who you are, and showing up and being able to give back to the community, but also demanding accountability from our leaders as well. So in order for me to be successful in this community, I have shown up. I have simply shown up and been in the space. And I think that is part of what we do as a community as a whole. We show up and we ask, how can we help? How can we elevate? How can we support? How can we lend our voice to any issues that we have so that we can elevate and build our community together? So I wanted to be able to share that in Black Utah Stories from a Thriving Community, to showcase that we are in this space and we are intentional about what we do and that we are here to build and celebrate community. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I, for one, follow your mantra of being intentional and actually being in spaces that usually we don't see each other in. And I've really appreciated that from you and following you in the community and you as a mentor, pro se, out there for me. So thank you so very much for sharing. Laura, let's hear a little bit about yourself and what your experience was with this book and your reason for your willingness to share.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. It's interesting to hear from everybody else. And first, I'll just say I've yet to meet anybody who can tell James no. So that was first. But honestly, for me, it's about making a path for those coming up next. Utah, I was born here, pretty much raised here. My father was in the Air Force and retired at Hill Air Force Base. And a lot of the places I go, especially with my career in insurance, it is traditionally a very male and white male dominated industry, not just in Utah, but across the country. It's something that has been identified and trying to work on for years. And so for me, it was not only a way to share what a wonderful and welcoming community Utah is, it was also to get the word out about this insurance industry as well. Most of the conferences and meetings that I go to, there are very few, if any, women of color. And I just think we're missing a huge opportunity. And so the thought with me sharing the book is just to kind of introduce some of these older traditional industries and open the door to let them know that there are people that look like us in these industries. It's a good industry, it's a good community, it's a good state. And particularly for those coming out of school, just give it a chance. I know it's you may not see many people that look like us, but we really want to make sure that we're keeping our young here in Utah and can grow the community and provide all these opportunities for them.
Great. Thank you, Laura. It's been wonderful getting to know you better too over time. And that's one of the great energizing things I thought about this book. There were people I did not know, and there were people that I did know. And it's great to find out more about those around us that we may not be aware of and the contributions that you're making to our community. So thank you all for sharing your stories. We heard a little bit about this, but what do you think the perception of Utah is to those that are outside the state? and what and how do you think we should do to address the image that Utah has outside the state? And I want to start with Laura, again, yourself on this one, just to give us some of your insights and experiences.
Yeah, I still think we're battling a pretty old perception. Part of that comes, when you Google Utah, you see some of these news stories in the past couple of years that come up, and it's easy to imagine that the whole state runs like a few little headlines, which is unfortunate. So the hope is that with this book, you can give real personal experiences, right? We're talking to people, we're sharing our story of our lives in Utah. And the hope is that that changes the perception of Utah to move away from the old, that there aren't any Black people, that it's not a welcoming community. You can't get your hair done, you can't find, some traditional food, that we move away from that and really start to tell our own stories of our community and our experience, and that it's a good one, it's a vibrant one, it's growing, and that there is so much opportunity. So that was my hope with this book, and the overall perception. The more we talk to each other about our histories and our experience, hopefully the broader than that story becomes.
Wonderful, thank you. Michelle, please tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the impression that people have about Utah when they're looking inside out, or I should say outside in. We lost Michelle.
I think she's
No,
muted.
she's muted.
Oh, I
Okay,
put myself on mute. Sorry.
That's a common Zoom thing.
Yes, it is. Because I was like, okay, sometimes I get excited when people talk and I'm like, yes. So anyways.
Well, I'm glad you're excited.
Yes, I'm extremely excited to be a part of this conversation. And that's a really great question, because to be honest with you, I didn't know where Utah was on the map. Like, I failed geography class in 6th grade, apparently, because it just wasn't a place that I was like, oh yeah, Utah. But my brother had lived here 5 years prior, and he had just had his first daughter. And so that I was like, oh, Utah, like, oh, okay. Like, it clicked in that moment. But let's be honest, Utah is probably one of the most successful, economically successful states in the country. And so it was funny to me when people were like, oh, why are you moving there? And like, what's in Utah? Are Black people even there? And I'm like, well, I'm moving there, so at least there's one. Like, But I'm like, yeah, I think you guys just don't understand. I think sometimes people associate Utah with the LDS Church, and they automatically have these negative connotations based on like the large kind of influence that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have in Utah. And so they already have resistance to that. And then they think, well, like Laura said, the food, the culture, the just the Blackness that exists in other cities throughout the country. Does Utah have it? And so I wanted people to know, like, yeah, actually it is here and it's kind of popping. Y'all should come and check it out. But it's fun, and there is a lot of opportunity. What I would be getting paid in Florida versus what my pay is here, and entrepreneur opportunities, abilities to be able to start businesses so easy here. I was like, dang, this is pretty easy to start a business. But if you're on the outside looking in, you're comparing it to, your environment and what you know. And I'm from South Florida. It is very multicultural there. You speak like 6 languages. There are people from all over the world. And unless you're here in Utah, you don't know that that's the same thing here. There is a huge multicultural community here. And so I think people just need to experience it. Just come. Just come and experience it for yourself, and stop really worrying about what you see on social media or, the headlines, because media is probably in most cases circulating a lot of propaganda. They may not want you to come here, or, they might be trying to spew another narrative. And that's why I appreciate this book a lot, is because we're telling our stories from our perspective. And it was a Black moderator curating our stories. And I think that it's really important that I hope that this book inspires other people to do the same thing, where it's time for us to start taking control of the narrative on how Black people are seen and how they're received in the world. So Utah is popping, y'all. Just come check out the vibe.
Thank you so much. And you're so right that having this voice through this book is incredible. And it's a great opportunity for people to see and hear different perspectives from people that come from inside and out of Utah to move here to become part of this community. Emma, you actually came here from outside of the community. Share with us some of your thoughts about before you came here, and then also your experiences since you've been here, and what you still see as the perception of those outside of Utah.
Well, thank you, Shauna, and thank you for this perspective of what Utah is out in the community. Listen, coming from Texas, coming from Florida, coming to Utah, was brought into Utah in 1986 in the spring, and it was beautiful. The sun was shining, the birds were singing. It was just lovely. Moved finally in the summer, and it snowed in the month of June. And I was looking for a flight out. I'm thinking, this is June and we have snow in the state of Utah. Oh, that's right, I live in the state of Utah. What I have found is that I am an advocate for the state of Utah. When individuals learn that I am from Utah, when I am traveling, they get over that initial shock of, you are from Utah? Absolutely. Let me tell you what's going on in the state of Utah. Let me tell you the opportunities that are available in the state of Utah. Let me tell you what entrepreneurship looks like. Let me tell you what community looks like. So my intent is not to harp on what people's perceptions are in a negative way. My intent is to elevate Utah to individuals who are unaware of the opportunities out there. It is my job to say that the state I live in provides opportunities for individuals who want to be successful. And Utah is that place to make that happen. We are a well-kept secret, but the opportunities that happen here now, there are at least 5,000 other Emmas in Atlanta. I would be competing with 5,000 others who have the same skills, the criteria, the background, the influence, all of that. I would be competing. Here in the state of Utah, in the city of Salt Lake, although I am not physically competing, I am competing on a level that is applicable to opportunities here, to opportunities that I can bring my skills, that I can bring my credentials, and I am unique in what I do in the state of Utah. So when I think about what the perception is, my responsibility is to change that perception with my words, my deeds, and my actions when I cross the border into another city or a state to say, Michelle said, Utah is popping. I just want to echo that. Utah is popping for opportunities. And when we come into this state, I know that some individuals give it, I'm going to give it 2 years. I'm going to give it 6 months. And they expect in 6 months to have acclimated to the community. It takes a little bit longer. And you have to be intentional about getting involved because the opportunities are here.
Wonderful, thank you. You know, we've heard a lot about connection, and I wanted to hear from all of you or each of you, in what ways do you find are the best ways for you to connect to the community here in Utah? And then what do you recommend for those that haven't found their place yet? Because that seems to be a narrative that tends to hit our business industry, our social industry, our travelism. People just think, well, I just can't find my place. I don't feel like I belong. Just share some of your experiences there about how you connected and how others may be able to think about it. And let's start again with you, Emma, now that we still have you here on screen, and get your opinion on that topic.
Okay. Finding your community starts with, like I say, being intentional. whether you're finding a church community or a civic community, whether you're looking to be part of the Divine Nine, which I am, of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I need to just throw that in there. I'm still on Beta Omega chapter. Once you find individuals that have a connection with the life that you lived and wherever you had transferred from, that is how you find your community. And you have to be consistent with that. So knowing that the NAACP in Salt Lake and in Ogden is here. One of the things that I truly admire in one of the networking and the partnerships that James Jackson III has created in working with Salt Lake City's mayor's office is creating Living Color Utah. Living Color Utah is the umbrella where all of our ethnic chambers live. So if you want to know what the Polynesian community is doing, visit Living Color Utah. What the Black community is doing, what the Asian community is doing, what the Hispanic community is doing, what our LGBTQ community is doing. Look and see Living Color Utah, and it will give you just a variety of community connections, where to get your hair done, where the soul food is, where to shop, where to do all of that. So it is housed because it has been created by us, for us, to let individuals who are looking into the state to find out, where does that happen? How do I get connected? And not to be frustrated because I've been here 6 months and I haven't connected. It takes time to make those connections, but once you create that community, it is well worth the energy. It is well worth the time. The networking that happens, the support that happens, I can't speak highly enough of how this community has come together. Not to say that we do not have our differences, but the fact that we are a strong Black community that will support each other in any of our endeavors, we will do that. And so making that connection to find out what is your passion. You can be on the ski slopes, you can be hiking in the mountains, you can be on the riverbanks fishing, you could do all of this in the state of Utah. You could be at a concert downtown, you could be at the Gallivan's, you could be anywhere. The fact that we have the Eccles Theater and we bring in star performance Broadway productions, we have everything in the state of Utah. In this city, you can find your connections, you can find your passions, and you can find your community. You got to be intentional.
Thank you, Emma. Laura, let's hear from you a little bit about connection and the ways that you find that works best for you. And how can we help others feel the same? You mentioned the insurance industry and trying to get people to understand more about the opportunities there. And that's some semblance of connection in helping people understand that. So please share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So just really quickly about finding community early on. My family moved with the Air Force. I was born here, we moved away, we came back. And one of the ways that we found some connection is got involved early in some Juneteenth celebrations. Ogden actually does a really robust and has for years and years. The other thing that I started taking my son and his friends to was the Living Traditions Festival. So they haven't done it in the last couple of years, but just like most things we haven't done in the last couple of years. But prior to that, it's all the different ethnic and racial communities that live here in Utah, and they showcase some of the traditions from their homeland or native land. And I'm telling you, if you guys haven't been, it's probably my favorite event of the year, besides Evening in Harlem. Just a little plug for the Black Chamber, but you can see dancing and music, traditional crafts and clothing, try food from all over the world. So I can't recommend that highly enough. And I've actually met some people and forged some relationships just by meeting them at this Living Traditions every year and asking them a little bit about their history and their time in Utah, what brought them to Utah. But then, yeah, switching to insurance, Sean, I think for me it's a lot like Emma. I'm passionate about Utah. I'm passionate about the insurance industry. It's been so good to me and my family that I almost feel like it's my mission to pass on this message and get more people to consider insurance. We joke a lot that it's not sexy, but it is stable. It is, you can go anywhere. There's so much opportunity in so many different areas to get involved that I every chance I get to talk about what an amazing industry and state this is, I take it in hopes of building those connections. Maybe it starts with one or two, but the more you can get into Utah and insurance, I think the more will grow, because once people are in this industry, like the state, they realize, wow, it's like Emma said, it's one of the best kept secrets. And it just sort of sells itself if you can just get people here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Michelle, you mentioned that Utah is popping, and you mentioned that you have conversations about people that are outside of the state. How did you get connected coming from outside of Utah? And what do you speak to others about when they get here, or if they get here, what they can expect as far as being able to dive into the community and feel like they're valued here?
Yeah, just like Emma said, it is a hidden gem. And that's what I say when I speak to people, like it's a hidden gem. But one thing people know about me is that if Michelle is going somewhere, there's a check there. So, so there's this lingo that we use, like getting to the bag or cutting the check, and so that's always kind of like the way that I get people, because if you talk about money, people's eyes and their ears light up. And so I always talk about the opportunities here to just get paid well for your skill set and your experience, to be able to close your wage gap a little bit from, the amount of money that you're paying in your living expenses and the gap between how much you actually make. Sometimes that gap is not very wide for people, especially if they have debt, student loans, things of that nature. It's really hard to get away from living paycheck to paycheck. And so I'm always talking about just the opportunities to be able to set a foundation to build wealth one day, whether that's going to be through a career or whether that's going to be through real estate or, entrepreneurship. I'm always leading with that. And for me, I'm a master networker. So I'm going to know somebody and I'm going to talk to somebody, even if it's in the elevator or walking through a door. I'm just an outgoing individual, and I'm intentional about where I want it to be in my life at this age and in this stage of my life. Coming over to Utah, I was very intentional about, first generation Haitian American. Like I really wanted to do my best to help my family to get into a better financial situation. And so I was intentional, like the people that I'm going to talk to, that I'm going to connect with, like it has to be people that's going to help me to be able to acclimate better or meet people or to just have fun or to learn things from. So what I would say to those who are thinking about coming here is what my brother said to me. It's like, if you're going to move to Utah, it's important that you know who you are. And so people always say, well, it's hard for me to connect with people. It's hard for me to find my tribe. Well, my question is to you, are you connected to yourself? Do you know what you need in a tribe that you're looking for? And so sometimes people come here with, the intention of acting like we don't live in a predominantly white state. Like, let's be honest, let's be real. Let's know what our surroundings are. And so I always tell people, how connected are you to yourself when it comes to you going out there to find a tribe to connect to? So one of the things that I'm super grateful for is, the outdoors that I was able to experience here, the different things that I had never thought about and living in Florida. Like, you get to experience all 4 seasons here in Utah, and it's a different type of connectivity that happens here. So you have to be open, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to connect deeper with yourself to know what is it that you actually want out of life. And Utah is probably one of the most well-rounded states that I've ever been to, and I've traveled a lot. So it has a lot. You can grow in every area of your life, and that's what me and God had talked about before leaving Florida, is that I wanted to see what I was made of, what I was capable of, and I wanted to be able to grow in every area of my life. And God said it was Utah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, let's see, but when I cried that night and I woke up that morning, I said, you know what? God said it's here. I said, let me open my eyes to see what is here. And then boom, it was 6 months later, I had applied for jobs, came over here for a week, did 17 interviews in 1 week, and Wells Fargo was the last one. And I was like, that's the job that I'm going to be at. So you have to be open to it, because the world can give you everything that you desire. You just have to be open to it.
Thank you so much. I want to, this next question, I want to stay with you, Michelle. You're a leader. All 3 of you are leaders in our community. And what I wanted to do is get some insights from you as to who do you see as the additional, I would say, emerging change makers in our community. And what do we as a business community have to do to better support those individuals?
Whoa, dang, that's a good one. There are a lot of emerging leaders here in Utah. Alicia and Elijah, they are also included in the book. Those are 2 people that I actually spend personal time with. Like, we walk around the neighborhood looking at buildings and like, oh yeah, man, one day we can do this, and one day we're gonna, do that. And we dream really big. So it was nice to see that they were a part of this book, because those are 2 of the people that I personally spend time with. We dream, we help organize and help each other, like with our businesses. There's just a lot. There's also the Future Scholars of Africa, which is a nonprofit that has recently become a member of the chamber, where there's these young, vibrant, college students that see a need within the community to support their individual needs. And so we have little pockets within the Black community where, you have an immigrant kind of ambiance with the community, and then you have the professionals, and then you have the artists and the creatives, and we have so many different pockets. And so you have U-Black, which is the Utah Artist Black Collective that is now rounding up all of the Black creatives in Utah and helping them get commissioned work. So there is a lot, kind of festering up. And I'm really, really excited about just us being able to come together. I think the chamber is going to play an instrumental role in identifying the needs of those businesses and saying, hey, how can we help you to be able to organize your infrastructure in a way where it can be sustainable over a period of time? And so as the chamber is getting more aligned with creating those programs and really being intentional about getting out there and finding these businesses and connecting with the people, I think that that's going to be a really game changer once we get certain things in place. And I'm honored to be able to be a new board member with the chamber to help facilitate some of those things. So I'm super grateful. Yeah, it's going to be really good.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Laura, can we hear a little bit about on this topic from you about future change makers that you see in our community and how business can better support them as well?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Michelle mentioned a few that immediately came to my mind, so I won't review those again. Elijah and Alicia, I think, are instrumental in the future of both the Black Chamber and the community here in Utah. The other person that comes to mind is Jerome. Curly, he's at the UVU, and he's helping those students find their way in Utah as well. And then I think just on a broader point, certainly the Black Chamber, as we come into our own, James has done such a wonderful job of expanding the board and our reach. I think we're at a critical point with the Black Chamber where we really are going to be the change maker in Utah, connecting businesses. The foundation side has a robust internship and mentoring program. I think we have so many leaders and up and comers that we have yet to meet. And I see the Black Chamber and all of us being part of that to ensure that we have a path for these young people coming up, and that we continue to provide a robust business community, get our friends on the Hill aligned with some things that will make it easier for Black business owners and entrepreneurs to do business here, so that they can continue to provide opportunities for these young change makers and leaders in Utah.
Thank you so much. Emma, let's hear from you. You meet a lot of people here in our community on a regular basis. Who do you see are some of these up and coming change makers that are in our community, and then how business can actually support them as well? I want to hear those thoughts from you.
I think all of what has been shared, the names that have been put out there, definitely I am co-signing on those wonderful names. Coletta and Marvin Lynch, Michelle Loveday with Rise Academy. We have Princess DeRossi. We have Dr. Brian Lockie. I mean, there are so many up and coming young adults that are making the transition to be stepping up in front. We have that succession plan going on at the moment. We got Dr. Richard Ferguson, we got Melanie and France Davis as well. One of the things that I just want to highlight as far as how businesses can help, the University of Utah does an exchange program in the summer with HBCU students. They come for the summer and they are partnered with businesses in the community. They do an internship with them for the 6 or 12, I think it's 12 weeks that they are here. If businesses want to attract up and coming professionals from diverse backgrounds, they need to partner with the University of Utah. I'm just putting a plug in there. HBCU graduates who come to the state of Utah, who get a different perspective of what Utah has to offer, they will stay. But we need to have businesses who say, I want to sponsor this person to come and work with me during this summer internship program. I want to make this happen to show them what the state of Utah can offer, to bring them back to our community to be actively imparted. So when you know that you are bringing HBCU students here, you know their expectations are high to begin with, that they want to see their community, that they want to know where to go if they're wanting to go to a church service. They want to be actively involved. They want to experience the outdoors and what Utah has to offer. But businesses need to recognize that if I am bringing children of color, young adults, I didn't mean children, I apologize, young adults into my community, if I am recruiting them, I also need to have my retention plan in place. I can get you in the door, but can I keep you? And if you are not having an intentional retention plan with your recruitment plan, you're letting that asset walk out the door. So businesses need to have conversations with communities that they want to involve within their organization and say, how do we do this? How can we be successful? How can we be intentional about not only recruiting, but retaining the talent that we bring to the state? I'm just saying, HBCU students coming to the state of Utah, they will find it is a hidden gem.
Thank you so much for that illumination. Last, as many of us have been watching and paying attention to this panel, remember February is Black History Month. So I'm going to ask each of you, why do you think this is important that we celebrate Black History Month, and share the stories from those in our local community that may be contributing to Black history, like yourselves, and how can we do more of this as a community. So I want to start with Laura.
Oh, thank you, Sean. They're doing some construction next to my office. And so if I suddenly go silent or the Kool-Aid man comes through my wall, forgive me. My goodness. Yeah, Sean, I think, I had this conversation recently with somebody, and I think it's important to continue to celebrate and recognize Black history because we don't talk about our true Black history. And that's a nationwide, maybe a worldwide issue. And so I think we owe it to our ancestors, the ones who came first and got us all here. I think we owe it to the ones coming up behind us to recognize where we've been and where we're going and our contribution to not only this state, but the country. And until that is part of our DNA and our everyday conversations, we have to keep recognizing and talking about it. There are so many amazing stories in our history. So I was at the Leonardo with the Black Wings exhibit, and I don't know if anybody has been there yet. You should go. But there were so many stories, and we're such a part of the aviation story in the US that I had no idea about. And those are things that we should learn as youth, and we don't. And so I think until our full story is told and recognized and understood, that we need to keep celebrating and talking about who we are, where we've been, and where we're going.
Michelle, will you share on this topic as well?
It's actually sad to me that I have to share this story, but just last week, I had a conversation with a company that doesn't celebrate Black History Month. They don't acknowledge it. And when it was brought to their attention from I brought it up, the person responded and asked, "When is it?" I was like, "It's February 7th, sis." Man, it's something that we have to keep celebrating because it's something that people want us to forget. It's a part of who we are, our fabric, the fabric of this country. And when you have people comparing Black History Month to Black Lives Matter as justification as to why that they don't, but they can, adapt an African proverb to be a part of their company core values, but don't acknowledge the month in which the contributions of those people to the country that allows them to be able to have the wealth that they have. It's appropriation at its highest level. And so for me and my generation, I know that it's important for us to be able to celebrate the Black excellence that's happening, the Black joy, and not always telling those those horrific, really, stories about our past. Although they are very important, we have to simultaneously show all the good that we have contributed to this country, and the freedoms that a lot of people have, the technology that a lot of people have, that the world has because of Black people. So for me, we have to keep doing it because it's who we are. So we're not going anywhere. We exist and are able to exist in every part of the world. So it's not going anywhere. We can't stop celebrating it because it's who we are.
Great, thank you so much. And I think that's one of the really important things about this book. It shows these contributions that people might not otherwise realize are going on right in our own backyard. And we have to illuminate those contributions on a regular basis so that people really start to understand that, hey, look, this thing is real. This community is vibrant. This community is a contributor to our society as a whole. And that is incredibly important. Emma, let's hear from you about the importance of Black History Month and why we need to continue to share the stories from this community.
Sean, one of the things, and like I say, I want to co-sign on what has already been said about the importance of Black history. Knowing that it's 365 days a year, it is continuous education on the contributions of African Americans and Blacks and how we have contributed to this nation as a whole. And when we think about those contributions, and when you read the contributions and the lived experiences of the individuals who participated in this book, Black Utah, Stories from a Thriving Community, my question would be, why would you not want to know this information? We do better when we know better. And when we know better, we do better. So understanding that Black history is educational opportunities to learn from communities that have been left out of the history books, to be engaged in those communities and to create that type of networking so that we can be better equipped to live in this global society. Black history is ongoing from January to December, from 2022 to 2023 and beyond. So it's not something that stops or just is recognized in a month of February. It is continuously recognized. The University of Utah is doing an entire month of different activities and events. And today we're doing Douglas Days, celebrating Frederick Douglass. His birthday was yesterday. We're at the University of Utah. Elijah Garfield, who is the director of our Black Culture Center, is hosting a Douglas Day community event at the Black Culture Center. We put the link in the chat box for you to get an idea of what is happening. But Black history is, as we all know, is American history. It's national history. It's global history. And it is for us to understand the contributions that have been made by individuals who were forcibly brought to this world, so to this nation. So for me to celebrate this, it's every day. I'm Black every day. I celebrate it every day. I am engaged every day. I let people know that, listen, I love me some Emma Houston, the Black woman. There is no misunderstanding of what that looks like. And to be in spaces where we are normally not in spaces reminds others that there is a community out there that will contribute, has contributed, and continues to contribute.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our panelists for taking the time today to be here to share their experiences, both in the conversations that took place in this book, and also with our time today in just giving some more insights to themselves and to what they see is going on in our community today. What we want to do now is we want to open it up for questions. You can write your questions in the chat, and then we'll make sure we get those answered right now. Ask questions of the panelists and even of the author, James Jackson. So I'm going to give you a quick second, those that have any questions, to actually go ahead and shoot something in the chat if you have a question. Do we have any in the chat? I can't see the chat.
Not yet.
Yeah, no questions.
Boy, we must have overwhelmed everyone here with this conversation.
I guess we told them everything they needed to know.
Yes. Well, we have one question here. James, what inspired you to write this book?
Sorry, I turned my camera back on. Really being a native of Utah, and when I graduated high school, all my friends left me. And I wanted to follow them, but it's hard when school is free. And so I stayed here. But every time I go out of town or come back into town, meeting new people here, hearing the conversations, the narrative of just the diverse community overall, I wanted to try to change the narrative, change the perception, because I knew what Utah is able to offer, just like our panelists shared. And that's where I wanted to go. And I really didn't believe, I always had this thought of writing a book, but it didn't really come to fruition until end of 2020, when I was approached by a publisher to help co-author a book leading through the pandemic. And so I just wrote one chapter, and that just what started the momentum. I went back to her and said, hey, I want to do this. Can we do this? She said, absolutely. Can we do it in 10 months? Because I want to release it during Black History Month. And she gave me this blank stare. She says, that's a lot, but let's go ahead and do this. And for those that know me, if I set a deadline, it's going to get done. I put my best foot forward in everything that I do, especially for a project as big as this. I was just emailing her earlier, and she's excited about the success the publisher is and wants to further partner with the Utah Black Chamber going forward to spin off from these stories. So, for you panelists, who's next, right? To continue their story about Black Utah overall, and it's just exciting of where we're headed. And so that's what inspired me is one, really wanted to change the narrative, and then two, there was an avenue for it to really make happen. And I just appreciate the leadership of the Black Chamber for embracing me and moving forward with this. The people that we interviewed, 33 people within this book we interviewed from all over the spectrum of the Black community. So that's what's exciting to me. That was what was, I felt privileged and honored to listen to 33 different stories, and I was honored because I sat down with them for an hour. So, we couldn't put the whole hour into the book, but, there may be some more insight coming on that and how you can listen to the rest of it.
Thank you, James. I'll pass a question to you. I know a lot of our, especially the Black community and most communities of color, are impacted by the law and policies. What do you see, or who do you see as contributors to the community, the Black community, as shaping some of those policies and laws?
Well, that's a good question. We're thankful to have, even though a very small, diverse group there up on that, up at the Hill with us now, battling it out with, Sandra Hollins and Luz Escamilla and Angela Romero and Derek Kitchen, Mark Wheatley. Those individuals have really had a tall task because they're not just, representing their district, but, they're representing a diverse community as well, because we always go to them for advice, insight, support. And so I think they're carrying a lot of weight there. I appreciate their efforts. And then they do have a community built around them. I know that Derek is working with Elise Dersrow and Curly Me and her board and her team on the anti-discrimination bill that they're trying to get to go through. I was sitting down with the individual earlier this month or last month, helping the chamber get moving forward on how we can be more effective up on the Hill. Sit down with Liban Mohammed, met him a couple of years ago, who was a thriving, growing, emerging person, and he works in government affairs with the American Heart Association. And he has a young team that is building around them. So I think the future is bright for Black Utah and the diverse community for being involved in legislation. And I guarantee you, mark my words, we're going to see a lot more faces of color that's going to be on some sort of ticket here locally, coming up in the next round.
Wonderful. Well, we're getting close on our time, James. So I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to close us out and to give us some additional thoughts to the drivers that were behind you writing this book and the experience that you had in interviewing each of the people that are included in this book of yours. I would say the first book of yours, as we know more is to come.
Well, Miss Emma had something. I'll give her the mic real fast.
No. I just noticed that there was a question in the Q&A box. There was a question in the Q&A box as well. So I don't know if we want to manually respond in writing or if it wants to be addressed as well. I know we're running out of little time.
Sean, do you see the Q&A? I can ask the question to both of the panelists.
Okay, yeah, I can't see it.
I can read it. It says, how do we equip businesses with the cultural awareness and insight needed to retain diverse individuals? Most can attract, but then do not follow through in supporting the needs of those individuals, resulting to them relocating.
I'll leave that to the panel to answer.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm this was the first time ever in my life that I was ever, I feel like it was blatant when someone referred to me as a Negro banker. And it was almost one of those experiences where it was like, whoa, did the person really just say that? And you remind yourself, like, as Black people, we do not have the liberty to just respond and react how someone would typically do. We always have to think from our third mind that is like, wait a minute, like, if you respond a certain way, you will be seen as X, Y, and Z. There will be no one to support you. Everyone's going to think you are being, over exaggerating or being too aggressive. And, there's a third mind that Black people have when wanting to conduct themselves in a professional setting. But I think that it's really it's not our responsibility. There are ways that we can, which we have been over hundreds of years, trying to say how to look at people, especially people of color, Black people, like humans. People they look at us like we're just this separate being that like they need to discover how to talk to and how to, it's like it's not that difficult. Just talk to people respectfully, just do your best to get to know the person, do your history, like read books, watch movies. Like there are tons of research that you can do on your own as an individual to understand how to be culturally aware of Black people, of Indigenous people, of Caribbean people. Like, we're tired of having to tell you how to retain people. They're people. Just learn how to communicate with that person. It's a individual based case by case basis. Like every person is not the same, just like every Black person is not the same. So you need to genuinely try to get to know that person. So, I'm sorry, I went on a little bit of rant, but that's what I got to say.
Just really quickly, I would say I completely agree with Michelle to, just talk to the person, but I also think businesses can also look into employee resource groups. There is something really refreshing and important to have a space like in this situation with Michelle, that if she could just go to some other people of color and just talk about what happened today at work, then you have somebody that understands, because they've been through it too. We've got these same life experiences, and you don't have to explain the entire background because they would just get it. So I think employee resource groups are really critical, particularly if you don't have a large, diverse group. I think those can be really helpful in a safe space.
I wish we could have time that would never end and having these conversations, but we've come to the end of our time. One closing point, James, and then we'll let everybody go and enjoy the rest of their day.
Well, thank you, Sean Newell. I appreciate you moderating this incredible discussion with these panelists who, mind you, I like to just emphasize phenomenal, incredible Black women here in Utah doing amazing things. So I appreciate Laura and Michelle and Ms. Emma Houston for joining us and sharing in their experiences and just being involved with Black Utah overall. And Laura, people do say no to me sometimes, but then they say yes a little bit later. But I do appreciate you guys for participating in this journey. It's been a great experience. For those who do not know where to find the book, Black Utah Stories from a Thriving Community, you can go to Amazon and just search Black Utah. We have the digital version. We also have, because we do have images inside the book as well that kind of share to emphasize the experiences. So there's the book in color and in black and white. And then coming soon, we'll be having it in local areas as well. Visit Salt Lake has some on hand. And there'll be other retailers that will have the book on hand as well. But right now we just have it available on Amazon. We thank everybody for participating and joining in our discussion today. And if you'd like to learn more about the Utah Black Chamber or the book or its contributors, you can reach out to our website, utahblackchamber.com. We just released a new website for Black History Month. We just have a lot going on during Black History Month, a lot more events. You can go to our calendar for any events that the Chamber has going on and within its membership base. So thank y'all for participating. You guys have a great day.